Today, we become legends.
Today's Titan Talk discussed item balance, new aspects, out-of-match features, and more. So without further ado, let's jump into the recap. First up, there's been some hotfixes deployed to the game since the last show, which I'll leave on screen for a bit here. Pause the video if you want to read them all in detail. Isaiah said they might be having a guest on the show for Friday, potentially Pawn or Clumsy, as the team is working on a balance patch right now that they might be able to discuss on the show. Kilgood also mentioned that the design team wanted to say that they're aware shields are too strong at the moment and a bit of a problem, and they are looking at addressing the issue, whether that be in an OB11 hotfix or for OB12, which is good to hear. Heroism especially needs a major nerf right now. Someone mentioned how quickly Sila can detonate her 2 compared to Smite 1, and Kilgun said that is an intentional change as she can now pre-detonate while the ability is still traveling, so it will detonate immediately on landing. They can look into changing that though if people feel like it's too much, but that was an intentional change. Kilgun also mentioned that alongside Sila's aspect coming in OB12, Ganesha will also be getting a new aspect in the next update with his launch. He also said that the number summing where multiple instances of damage from the same source will add up instead of displaying separate numbers will be in the next update as well, and the directional damage indicators to show where you're taking damage from will also be in OB12. Also, the next wave of announcer packs that will be coming will either be in OB12 or OB13, depending on how much they can get done. Hey, just jumping in here to promote my Twitch. I don't do it enough, so I thought I would throw it into this video. I'm live right now as this video goes out. If you want to discuss anything that came up on today's Titan Talk or the game in general, or just watch replay. As I said, I'm live right now as this video goes out. The link for that will be down below. Someone asked about auto-attack warriors in solo lane and how they feel a bit underwhelming, and Kilgun said he's not a designer and hasn't looked too closely at the numbers, but he feels personally that they are a bit underwhelming, but isn't sure if that's the case across all levels of play and in a general sense. There was a question of if it's intended that wandering market chests open immediately, and Kilgun said yes, that is intended, as they currently don't have a way to store and display owned chest rolls at the moment. He did say that there's enough stuff on the page though that you don't have to buy the chest immediately, and you can come back and buy it from the market whenever you feel is best. Someone asked about Eye of the Storm, and Kilgun said most of what he's seen and the design team's opinion is that the item is within reason at the moment and not bugged or anything, so basically it's intended. There was a question of if they were changed versus AI to have real teammates like Smite 1, and Kilgun said they feel it's important to get new players into a match as soon as possible, which is why you don't get real teammates right now, as you would have to wait for 5 people to be in the AI queue. The way it's done now, you just get an instant queue, which helps a lot with new player retention, as the vast majority of bot versus AI matches are new players. Kilgun did mention some kind of system where, for example, you get rewards for playing like 10, 20, 30 games per week, and at the end of the week you're rewarded based on how many games you played, as sort of an expansion to the current quest system. He did mention this is something they just discussed internally though, and not something they're actively working on or that's coming soon. Someone asked if Kilgun has seen the discourse around his Sprouts idea that he mentioned a while back on the show, and he said yes, he has seen it. For those out of the loop, the idea was that new players get a little Sprout icon next to their name for a while that is visible to their team only to help their teammates understand that they're new. I think it sounds like a good idea, to be honest, would probably result in at least a little bit less toxicity towards new players. There was a question of why some gods have been omitted from the ability icon updates like Apollo or Medusa, and Kilgun basically said it sort of just goes on vibes. If the team thinks the icons already look good enough, then they don't get updated. Someone mentioned that Cersei's Hexstone's movement speed stat just doesn't apply in-game, and Kilgun said they'll take a note and look into that. Someone asked if the team enjoys working in UE5 and are there any limitations compared to UE3, and Kilgun said generally the team is very happy working with it and it's a big improvement from UE3. But one limitation that it does have is that the engine is sort of designed to make really nice looking games that run at relatively low frame rates, especially for consoles. So some of the systems like Nanite and Lumen look really nice, but would make Smite 2 run at 30 to 60 FPS, which is unacceptable for a competitive game like a MOBA, especially for PC gamers. There was a question of if we get recall skins back, and Kilgun said they have talked about it and will bring them back at some point, but they probably won't be the next cosmetic type in the pipeline. Someone asked if they could get intro voice lines for gods back, and Kilgun said he'll ask Kellen if that's easy to do or not. Someone asked if there's a push to fill Max's shoes in terms of data and matchmaking, and Kilgun said they do have people at the studio that are in very similar positions in terms of data, but they aren't as comfortable being as forward-facing as Max was, so we don't really see them. There was a question of if they thought about any out-of-game features that would make Smite 2 feel more like a true sequel, and Kilgun said that in general, features that apply only out of match are far less impactful to people's overall enjoyment of the game and how long they keep playing for. But they have done a few of these kind of things so far with like the Wandering Market, the enhanced God Builder, Ascension Passes, that kind of stuff. Someone asked about using AI or machine learning to improve the bot experience, and Kilgun said they actually have talked about that. It could be interesting, as they of course have thousands of matches played that they could train the bot off of, which could potentially allow them to, for example, train a bot off of silver games and use that, or train a bot off of masters games and use that, and so they will make the bot experience better with that. But it's just something they talked about, not something they're necessarily going to do or are planning. There was a question of when accolades might come back, and Kilgun said they will at some point, and they are tracking the actual values on the back end, so don't worry about like losing any of your pentakills or whatever, but probably not anytime soon, as there are other things that are higher priority for them. And finally, Kilgun asked if the community would be interested in some kind of party up button that invites your teammates in the post-match lobby to queue up for another game, and the chat seemed to like that idea, so they said they'll look into it. Chat also mentioned some kind of run it back button to rematch with the same teams, but I don't know how useful that would be, as there would be almost always at least one person who declines. Maybe they could backfill the remaining slots, but at that point, is it really a true rematch? I don't know. But that's everything discussed on today's Titan Talk. Don't forget to drop a like before you leave and subscribe so you don't miss my future recaps, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.